which was actually, it was very difficult for me because it turned out that the group that showed up were comprised mostly of the kids I grew up with in New York. So nobody would take me seriously because we grew up together. It was like, I'd tell them, write March, and they'd go, right, okay, sure, when would you like it? So I didn't actually, and of course, the way we used to settle arguments at home was we'd have a fist fight, and whoever won, that was who gave the orders. But you can't do that in the military. So I was taken off duty as a cadre, and I was assigned to crew an armored personnel carrier. I was taught to drive an armored personnel carrier, and I spent the next 4 months transporting mechanized troops in and out of mock battles. Because the strategy of using an armored personnel carrier is to put a whole bunch of them on line and then drive them forward and drop the back gates, and everybody runs out, and that forms a battle skirmish line. And then my job was, of course, to back up and get out of there, lay down covering fire with my machine gun, and then get out of there. So it was all training. It was all mock battle. And I did that for about 4 months. And the unit was shipped off somewhere else, but I wasn't assigned to go with the unit. I and my original group were sent to Fort Riley, Kansas. This was just after the Christmas holidays in 1966. We got to Fort Riley, pretty much the same thing. They had no idea why we were there. This was the Army in full action. They basically, the right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing, and so 20 guys, 12, 20, our group was so small that we were constantly under the radar. Nobody knew why we were there. So we were, because of our experience in armored personnel carriers, even though we were carrying an infantry MOS, an infantry title, we were sent up to a place in Fort Riley. Custer Hill was the name of it. Custer Hill was the site of the last battalion of the 1st Infantry Division not yet in Vietnam. And the reason they weren't in Vietnam yet was that they were assigned to field test a brand new tank that just got into the field. It was called the General Sheridan tank, and it had a missile guidance system on it, as well as sort of conventional. Well, I shouldn't say conventional. It was a very large cannon for a tank. It was a 155 millimeter cannon, which is tremendous. In fact, actually, when we used to fire the gun, the whole tank would like lift up and drop back down because the tank was not heavy enough to support the gun. So when you sighted the gun, every time you fired it, you had to resight it because the tank would move. So you had to go back and do it all over again, which is not a good thing to be happening in battle because speed of fire is very important. So I stayed on in Fort Riley, Kansas for 6 months, and during that time I managed. Again, remember, I'm not a career soldier. I'm just putting in my 2 years. I want to get out, and I'm approaching my first anniversary in the military, which would be the halfway point. And I'm thinking to myself, I might actually do this. I might actually get through this whole thing without having to go to Vietnam. As I said, I wasn't a soldier. I had an independent streak about me, and I wasn't unique. Many of us did. We had this one little piece of us that said, you can make us dress in the same uniforms, you can make us march in unison, but I'm going to be an individual. I'm going to be me. And that always got me in trouble, because the Army didn't stand for that. they didn't want thinking human beings. They want human beings that would obey instantly, regardless of the danger. And so any act of disobedience was treated badly. Well, my act of disobedience was I refused to buy savings bonds. They had a program in the military where if your unit was 100% savings bond enrolled, then it reflected very well on the captain, on the commanding officer. And you got a little Minuteman flag, a little flag saying that your unit is 100% enrolled in savings bonds. And I refused. I refused to buy savings bonds. I think part of it was savings bonds was for saving for the future. I was too young to be thinking about my future. I just wanted money so I could go downtown on pass and spend it. Not save it. Saving wasn't part of my life. And secondly, I kind of enjoyed the rebellion. I enjoyed the fact that I was doing something that I wanted to do, not what I was told to do. I didn't understand the ramifications of that. As it turned out, I obtained a temporary assignment as a chaplain's assistant while I was in Fort Riley, Kansas. And it was great, largely because there really was no Jewish chaplain. So I was nobody's assistant. I was an assistant to somebody who didn't exist, which is catch-22 stuff, but it happens. It really does happen. And it was wonderful because I got to go out to the chapel and sit around all day and answer phone calls. And if I had just kept my mouth shut about the savings bonds, I probably would have still been in Fort Riley, Kansas. But the Army has ways of taking revenge. Every month there's a levy. And a levy basically is a list of names to be sent immediately to Vietnam. And I found myself on that list. Not only on that list, but on that list reverting to my original job, my original MOS, which was infantry. So I had adapted a kind of what's going to be is going to be attitude. And I said, okay, well, if it has to be, it has to be. And I got to leave to go home for a month. Hi. Leave to go home for a month, which I did. I came back to California. I don't even remember what I did during that leave.